Welcome to the testing world. Now onwards, we are going to cover XPath. So before moving to the XPath, first of all, I just want to show you basic syntax of the XPath. So whenever you are writing XPath, it always starts with the double forward slash. Now, we are moving to first syntax of the XPath in which we are going to use a single attribute. Okay, let me move to the browser, and here that's my application. I'm going to show you XPath here on the Facebook, also on my application, which is thetestingworld.com/testing. Okay, I want to locate this login button. I'll just right click on this, inspect. As I click inspect, so we are going to get, we have lot of attributes. So tag name is input here, and we have lot of attribute. I'm going to use attribute which is value. Okay, the first syntax of the XPath is tag name. So here in our case it is input. So it's always, so XPath start with the double forward slash input and single attribute. So single attribute, whenever we are writing attribute, it should be in the square bracket, and the attribute name is value, and it contains this login. Data of this value is login. Whenever we are writing XPath, and in that XPath, whenever we are using attribute name, so before that we should write @. So that's the first syntax, which is tag with single attribute. Here a tag is input and the attribute was value, and that's the data which is placed in front of the attribute. Data is always in the single quote. Attribute name, before the attribute name we are going to use @. So if we check it here, I'm going to use the attribute with the name value. I can use any attribute. Okay, I try to use one more attribute which is type. So here I'm writing like type, and value of the type is submit. So if you notice here, tag is input, attribute I'm using which is type, and value of the attribute in the single quote. Before the attribute name it should be @. So that's the first syntax of XPath. Okay, let me copy. Moving to the browser, I'm just opening CSS and XPath checker, and this time I'm using XPath. As I enter, it shows one match. Okay, you are not able to see that because it is coming over to login button. So I'll just remove this, and if you check it, that element is highlighted. So first syntax of the XPath is tag with single attribute. We can use any attribute that we have seen. We are using single attribute. We can use any attribute that we have seen, but always check the attribute which looks static. Okay, let me show you what does it mean. I'm just coming to the HTML. Here we have many attributes like value, area label, data test ID, type, ID. If we notice here, ID value is u_0_2. That does not seems to be meaningful. That kind of values are dynamic. It's going to be changed very frequently. So always whenever you are taking attribute, just make sure the value should be static, else every time the page will load, a new value will be placed here. You will have to update your XPath again and again. We don't use that kind of dynamic attributes. In the same way, if you check it, style, background, RGB, this border value and the color could change very frequently. So we are not using that kind of attributes. Okay, let me show you the same on my application. I want to work on this my username text box. So let me highlight the HTML of this. Here the tag is input, and we have many attributes like class, name, required type, placeholder. If you notice, class, here we have many elements and the class is same. So if you are using class as attribute, it is going to locate multiple elements. We try to use any attribute which seems to be static. So if we check it, name, FLD_username, that seems to be static. Okay, let me copy this, and I'm writing a XPath like input, and we are using an attribute with the name which is name. Okay, @name, because before the attribute name we are using @ is equal to and whatever the value. So that's my XPath. Okay, let me copy this and show you here on the browser. I'm just closing it. CSS and XPath checker, match. So if you check it, it is matching with the exactly one element which is highlighted. So here we have seen first syntax of the XPath where we are using single attribute. That's all we have for this session. Thanks for watching this video.